Boy, that was fun. We're going to have a chance to do it again tonight. Yes, welcome on into Braves Today for Wednesday, September 25th. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. He's Christian Rauh. Follow him on Twitter at Christian S. Rauh, R-A-U-H. You can find all of our written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack. And Christian, that was enjoyable.
Yes, it was.
The Atlanta Braves take down the New York Mets 5-1 last night. It wasn't as close as that score makes it sound. Spencer Schwellenbach shoves. Michael Harris goes off. We're going to discuss both of those. We're going to talk about some of the weather concerns and how MLB should have approached this whole thing. But I want to start off with Michael Harris, okay? He has been a guy in the past, the last few seasons. He has been one of the, I would say, underrated players on the team. The defense has always been really good, but he's batted close to 300 in the past 2 seasons. He's come close to 2020 as far as home runs and stolen bases and things like that. Misses multiple months this year with a hamstring injury. Takes a while to come back, but last night we saw what he can do when he is healthy and he is hot. He comes up in the first inning, obviously leading off the game, gets a single, comes back up. I believe it's the third RBI double, gets Atlanta on the board, comes back up in the fourth and does. Money Mike is money, but wait, there's more. It's in the words of the immortal Billy Mays, but wait, there's more. The next inning with Luis Acuna up to bat, he then does this.
Michael will charge. Oh, he got it. Michael Harris, full extension grab to Rob Acuna.
What can't he do? What can't Michael Harris do? What an amazing game from him. And that is exactly what you needed from your leadoff guy. And I'm going to go back to what I said in takeaways last week. We are going to have a competition about who leads off in 2025. But I am so excited to see what we're getting from Michael Harris the second right now. And what a perfect time against these Mets.
Yeah, it is. I've always been a believer in Money Mike. Obviously, the team did too. They promoted him straight from AA, mind you. But
we got a good track record with that, AA to the majors.
Schwellenbach is another guy who did that AA to the majors thing, just skip Gwinnett completely. But seeing what he can do when he is a fully armed and operational battle station is tons of fun. I think I dropped these yesterday, but last 30 games for Michael Harris, the updated stats here, he's batting .316 with a .926 OPS, and he leads this team in home runs with 9. It's not Matt Olson, who has 7. It's not Jorge Soler, who has 5. Orlando Arce has 4, by the way. It's nuts. He's batting .194, but he's got 4 homers. But no, it's Michael Harris. And this is, I think, looking back, I made this case in takeaways last night. Again, go to bravestoday.com, read the takeaways from the game. I think they're fantastic. Subscribe. They'll come to your inbox as soon as the game ends and I post them. I think in retrospect, behind maybe Ronald Acuna Jr., losing Michael Harris for 2 months was the biggest injury loss of the year. Definitely. Simply because, and I know there's a case for Spencer Strider, right? I know there's an argument that losing Strider was huge, but simply because Atlanta did not have any way to replace Michael Harris, and they were lucky enough to have Cy Young production from Chris Sale to replace Spencer Strider.
Yeah, no, other people stepped up and in spot for Strider. You didn't really get that for Michael Harris. So as much as you want to say Strider, and come on, we'd love to have Spencer Strider right now. We're not saying that. Having Michael Harris back in the lineup is huge. Who would be your leadoff guy right now, Lindsay? Could you imagine going into this Mets series and not having Michael Harris as your leadoff guy? It would just, it would, you would not have
Soler or
had the same
Laureano,
result.
one of those
Yeah,
two, I guess.
you would not have the same result as in this game. And this game, as you mentioned, it didn't even feel close. Once it got to 3-0, it felt like the way that Schwellenbach was pitching. And I know we're gonna get that to a minute, but it felt like this game was already over. And this team looked really good. They've picked up a hit every single person in the lineup except the catcher, Travis d'Arnaud, recorded a hit. Eli White came in later. He did not pick up a hit, but 10 hits out in the game. It was pretty spread out, with the exception of Michael Harris getting 3 of them. You got to love that. This offense is picking up. They're looking really good. Marcelo Zuna gets another one. The Big Bear doing what he does in one of his big series. That's huge, especially since he's still coming off that home run drought. You got to love what you saw from this Braves offense. And I was a little worried heading into this one because they were really hot. And it sounded like are they ready for one of those valleys? Are we getting to get one of those offensive woes? But that wasn't the case in this one. And you mentioned it before, and I think you mentioned the takeaways, but it looks just like 2022 all over again. Hopefully they can get that same result from 2022.
Yeah, I want to jump into that or dive a little deeper into that offensive approach thing, because I don't think a lot of fans realized as the game was happening that Atlanta was doing something different at the plate. And we've talked about this on the pod. We've written about this in the takeaways. So long this year, because guys have been out, because guys have been underperforming, it's felt like every player has been trying to drive in all the runs themselves. Everybody's been swinging for the fences every single at bat. That's why strikeouts are up. That's why the production is poor with runners in scoring position and all of that. And in this game, you could tell that they had a very specific game plan of how to attack Luis Severino. I went back and counted late in the game as I was writing takeaways. What is it here? 12 times Atlanta swung on the first pitch. They saw on tape he liked to be in the zone to open an at bat. He wanted to get ahead, and he would do almost anything to do it. They got multiple hits. They got multiple runs that way, including several first pitch. I think that third inning where they scored 3 runs, I want to say 2 of those 3 hits were on the first pitch. But also, and Chipper Jones would be very happy. He's not throwing his flip-flop at the TV. Atlanta was not trying to kill the ball last night. They only had one batted ball over 102 miles an hour. That was the Michael Harris homer at a 111.5. And in that third inning, they only hit one ball over 95 miles an hour. Laureano hit like a 73 mile an hour single. They were just settling for quality contact versus trying to kill the ball. And they picked up 3 hits in the inning with runners in scoring position, which felt like a record when it was actually happening. But this is what we've been trying to get to all season. It's when guys are healthy, when everybody is contributing, you don't have to do everything yourself, and you're able to have better, more sustainable at bats than what you were seeing in July when 3 guys would come up with a runner on second. They'd all try to get a home run to get multiple runs in, and they'd all strike out or weakly fly out. And thank goodness they finally gotten to that point.
Yeah, we're at the point now where 7, possibly even 8 of the 9 players in the lineup, I'm not worried about when they come up to the plate. Like, I feel like they can make a chance. They can move the guys on base. They can make a base hit. They can get the game moving. They can continue it. They're not going to possibly record an out. Like, it's not a guaranteed out. Like I thought at one point with almost half of this lineup just a month ago, Lindsay. Even the bottom of this lineup has looked really good as of late. Gio Urshela has been a great pickup, and we're going to need to rely on him more going into the rest of the season.
260. He's batting 258 in the last 30 days.
Gotta love that. And then Ramon Laureano, I love that they are putting him in the lineup. They need to keep him in the lineup
every day.
If he gets out of the lineup, we need to riot. And he had some really underrated plays yesterday as well. His stolen base, he was at second before they even figured out he was running. He was fantastic. He looked really good on the base paths yesterday. This team overall is exciting. And if you're not excited by this, I think you need to go to Rite Aid or whatever those things and go ahead, check your heart rate and check your blood pressure on one of those machines, because this team has woke up. So I hope you guys do too.
Yeah. Laureano's actually arbitration eligible for next season, so they can keep him. We'll have to have
Interesting.
that conversation in the offseason. One of the unspoken, I didn't put some takeaways, but one of the things that I noticed when I'm looking at this 30 days of stats here is the team's catchers. Travis d'Arnaud and Sean Murphy are a collective 13 for 99, which is a 131 batting average. Sean Murphy's batting 093, d'Arnaud's batting 161. I think Murphy is still struggling with that oblique issue that's obviously bugging him for a long time. He has not hit fastballs this year at all. That's usually a thing that he does pretty well. So it's everything's not perfect, right? Arcia and your catcher 8 and 9, or you're probably are two not guaranteed outs, but they're outs pretty consistently. And I wonder if d'Arnaud at this point is going to come back, given his age and given how he's struggling down the stretch here and dealing with fatigue and all of that. He's 9 of 56. He's batting 161. So only has 2 extra base hits in the last 30 days. We'll see what happens there. But outside of that, this offense is finally doing what we thought it could do. And the winning percentage correspondingly is like up to 650 and since early August. And so this is the team you wanted. And you mentioned 2022. There's a lot of parallels here between this series and that series. You faced the Mets for 3 games, the last series of the year. They stacked their rotation in that series and then just couldn't seem to get it done. They came into that series, if I remember right, they were up a game on Atlanta coming into that series. The Braves got a sweep, and that's taking on Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, and Chris Bassett. Obviously, your starters now are still good, right? Sean Menegas tomorrow. We'll get to that later if about if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah.
But not as good as that group was. It just feels like New York can't seem to get it done in Atlanta late in the year when it matters. I've never seen Mets fans as sad and disappointed and frustrated online as I did last night when they were like, these dudes just collapsed. Like these dudes
Yeah.
just gave up and folded the first time they had to go out and win a series in Atlanta against a somewhat normal Braves team.
Yeah, some of the fans sounded like White Sox fans on socials. It sounded like that was the record that the team had, not fighting for a postseason spot. They seemed absolutely drained, but it was a tough game to watch if you were a Mets fan. There's no doubt about it. The perfect scenario happened for the Braves last night. Severino did not provide length for the team. He goes out in 4 innings pitched, and honestly, there was a chance that he might have gone out before the third was done. They had a guy warming up in the 3rd inning. So you could tell that it was already over. It was going to be a rough night for him. And they had to use 4 different relievers last night, Lindsay. And not only did they have to use 4 different relievers, all of them went a full inning. All of them pitched at least 15 pitches. Brazban went 21 pitches in it. So some of these guys are going to be possibly unavailable for tomorrow or for tonight, maybe even tomorrow, meaning you have a shorter bullpen for a guy for the next 2 nights. And Peterson could be another spot where he doesn't provide length. So again, this was the perfect scenario for the Braves, and this could provide a waterfall effect against the Mets moving on into this series. And that's exactly what Atlanta needed. They got to him early, and hopefully they can get to him early again tonight.
Yep. In just a minute, we'll discuss the likelihood of them playing tonight, as well as talk about just how good Spencer Schwellenbach has been this year, because I think not everybody realizes how dominant he's been. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today, your source for news, notes, updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm Lindsay Crosby. He's Christian Rauh. You can find all of our written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack. And Christian, so Spencer Schwellenbach, okay, we mentioned earlier how he did so much better than Luis Severino in this. Schwellenbach goes 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk to 4 strikeouts. The only run off of him is a solo homer from Mark Vientos in the 7th inning. That was the 14th inning that Schwellenbach has pitched against the Mets this year. That was the first and only run that the Mets have scored off of him this season. And I want to give you the stats against the top teams in baseball for Spencer Schwellenbach. He's not faced the Brewers. He's not faced the Diamondbacks. But against the top teams in the National League, 3 starts against the Phillies, 18 in the third innings, 6 against the Dodgers, 7 against the Padres, and now 14 against the Mets. A combined 9 runs. It's a 1.79 ERA in 7 starts versus those postseason teams. This dude, I'm sorry, Spencer Schwellenbach is a godsend. I don't know what this team would have done without him.
Yeah.
And you can see why they were comfortable not pushing Chris Sale up to Tuesday and saying if we have to go out and win game 162, we're comfortable throwing Spencer Schwellenbach out there for game 162.
Yeah, I really hope that the Braves have the same kind of pattern and the same kind of luck once it becomes the Columbus Clinkstones in AA as that AA to major league role, because what they've got
Like
from Michael
45
Harris,
minutes from my house, man. I'm
it's
so
gonna be
hyped for
great.
this.
And the jerseys look good. I love it. I know some people don't like it, but I think it's great. But going from Michael Harris from AA to the majors and then Spencer Schwellenbach making that jump, it's worked out really well for him. I will say this, got to shout out Orlando Arcia one time. He made a beautiful play at the top of the 7th inning to get Jesse Winker out right before that Mark Vientos home run. And that could have changed the momentum a little bit if it was a 2-run shot. Shout out to Orlando Arcia. But what Spencer Schwellenbach has done over the last couple starts has been amazing. Since his start against the Dodgers, he has had 3 straight quality starts. In September, he has a 2.73 ERA. He's looking really good. 20 strikeouts to 5 walks in only in the month so far. And it's just incredible. Out of only his 20 starts, he has 11 quality starts. More quality starts than non-quality starts from a guy who was in AA just a few months ago. To me, that's incredible. And not only are we talking about a guy who was doing big things for the Braves, we're talking about how a guy who was a former shortstop in college, was a minor league player just a few months ago, not even a high level minor league player, is going to be a potential game 3 starter if the Braves make the postseason. What an incredible run for Spencer Schwellenbach.
Yeah, he's pitched more innings this season than he had in every other season of his career, college and pro combined. And he's still able to do this. He feels good. I think we talked about this last week. He mentioned Chris Sale doesn't let him throw more than 15 pitches in a bullpen. Sale's really been like on him about watching his workload and how to feel good and things like that. But what I love about what Schwellenbach was able to do, and you saw this again last night, we've talked before about how he has like a 5-pitch arsenal. Like he's got 5-6 pitches he can throw. He can mix them around. Last night, he narrowed it down to mostly 3. Because normally he'll pick 5 of these 6, and they're all used 15 to 20% or so, right? Maybe the 4-seamer gets a little bit more of that, 24, 25% or whatever, but that's how he approaches a game. In this game, 4-seamer, slider, cutter combined for 86% usage. He threw 5 curveballs, 4 splitters, and 3 sinkers. Because what he'll do, and Max Fried does this too, he will go with whatever's working, right? Max Fried can go out there and can rack up tons of whiffs and punchies and all of that. Max Fried can also go up there and just get soft contact and get through innings quickly and save the bullpen. Schwellenbach, he got 4 first pitch outs and he had 14 different at-bats of 3 pitches or less. Like, he just realized this is what's working. I'm going to stick to these 3. I'm going to sequence them really well. And I'm going to get a lot of I'm going to get a lot of ground balls and get a lot of outs. He gave up plenty of hard hit balls. I want to say he had 10 hard hit balls or something, but 1 home run, 1 run. He got suboptimal or he got gettable base batted balls, right? Like, yes, it's hit hard, but it's hit right to Michael Harris. It's hit right to Orlando Arcia or whatever. And just incredibly impressed with the growth of this dude. He seems to never get rattled. And this is huge to have a kid this good in your rotation. I think this is the next pitcher that needs to get an extension from Atlanta, honestly.
I was going to throw you a curveball, and I guess it's not. I guess it's right down the middle. I was going to say, what do you think? Should AA make an extension for this guy in the offseason, especially not knowing what's going on with Max
I'd
Fried?
do it now. I'd do it now.
Yeah, no, good call. I would too. You know what? Actually, no, I don't want him to focus on any contract extensions. I want him to focus on making the postseason. But
Right. Okay. Yeah. Good point.
I want them to do it the day that they no longer play baseball. That day. No, but what he's done has been incredible. You got to be really excited for what you've seen from him. And we mentioned in yesterday's show that we wanted to see him actually pitch a little less because of what we've seen and let the bullpen do its job. But unless he shoved, obviously he shoved and he goes 7 innings. And how huge is that he went 7 innings for this squad when the Mets had to use 4 relievers, and the 2 relievers that were used for the Braves went only 8, 9 pitches each. So you can use them again. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I will say this, though. Iglesias came in the 9th inning, Lindsay, with up by 4 runs. It was a huge game, obviously. You got to get this win. You got to go with your big guys on the stage. But do you think it was the right call to pick Iglesias to go in, even though it wasn't a safe situation, maybe even trying to hold him off the next game? Or do you think you had to win this game? You got to put in your big guns.
You had to do it. Hey, he obviously talked to Schwellenbach 5 pitches to get through 3 outs. Like,
Right.
no strikeouts. It was all batted balls, but I 100% am perfectly fine in this situation where these are, in essence, must wins. I'm not saying you have to go 6-0, but you need to go 6-0, and you can't go any worse than 5-1. I'm 100% fine with Jimenez and Iglesias taking the 8th and the 9th. Everybody got Monday off. I feel like Jimenez threw 19 pitches. I'd like him to only throw one the next 2 days. Iglesias can pitch both if you need to. But we got to talk real quick about, do they even play today? Because I put in the takeaways last night, the Weather Channel, they're from Atlanta. So obviously I pulled the Weather Channel's weather reports. And as of last night, they had 1 to 2 inches of rain expected today on Wednesday, started in the afternoon. Overnight, 3 to 5 inches of rain overnight. On Thursday, during the day, 2 to 3 inches of rain. And overnight Thursday, 3 to 5 inches of rain. In retrospect, it feels like the way to have handled this series was doubleheader on Tuesday, an early start time on Wednesday, get the Mets out of town so that you get these games in and you don't have to push. Because the worst case scenario here is you can't play Wednesday or Thursday, and you have a doubleheader on Monday, the day before you go into the wild card round. Because that means you are in a scenario of having played, when you factor in the weekend, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're in a scenario of having played 5 games in 4 days as you enter games that matter. You can't just throw away. You have to win these games. But as you enter the wild card round, and then ask a team to play possibly 3 straight games with a bullpen that's taxed, with you've used all your starters, and you can't set a rotation or anything. I feel like this whole thing was a little mismanaged. We saw Detroit. They moved their game on Tuesday from a night game to a day game. Was still delayed a little bit, but they got it in. Feels like this should have been proactively moved up as much as possible to try to get these games in during the regular season versus just saying, oh yeah, we'll be able to come back on Monday and play if we need to.
Yeah, and there's a chance, as you mentioned, if that might have to play on Monday. If one of those games have to be played on Monday, there's a chance that it never gets played because it might not need to happen. We've seen that happen in the past. The Braves only played 161 just a few years ago. But if there's 2, there's
Now,
no.
yeah, that was a matchup with the Rockies, and the Rockies were out and the Braves were in. I think the only way that happens is if Arizona completely collapses. Now, they got destroyed by the Giants last night. We talked about that over on First Pitch, by the way, if you guys want to go watch that. If the Diamondbacks collapse and Braves and Mets are both in, you could see that. But it feels as of now, I think the safe assumption is that they're going to have to make that up.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Good luck or bad luck if Jim Cantore threw the first pitch out today? What do you think?
Oh my gosh. I am terrified of Jim Cantore showing up at my house. If I ever see Jim Cantore in my city, I am leaving. And I just,
For sure.
that would be a hilarious choice. He's probably busy having to travel for the hurricane that's coming, but I think it'd be hilarious
See
if
him in
they
full
had him do
suit and
that.
everything, full rubber duck, just sitting on the mound
Throwing out
pitch.
the first pitch.
I'm for it.
That'd be good. Okay. So if this game happens, folks, Chris Sale at 720, you feel really good about your chances in this one. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, thank you for coming here with us and breaking down what happened yesterday. You can follow me on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. You can follow him on Twitter at Christian S. Rauh, Rauh. Again, all of our written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack. And then if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell when we drop a new episode. And on audio, subscribe to the feed, leave us a 5-star review. Really does help a ton. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.